So last time I showed you guys how to do this nail right here. If you remember, this was an extension that I shortened and backfilled and showed you guys how to fix it and add product back to it. This week I want to show you guys how to backfill a thin overlay. This is completely my natural nail. It has just a little bit of pink gel on top of it, and you can see that it is very, very thin. So I wanted to show you guys how to backfill an overlay like this and how to get it to match these other glittery ones that I have here. All right, so because this is so thin, we don't need to remove as much product as we did last time. So this week I'm going to use just a carbide cone. Carbide cones are really great because when you are working on a thin surface, you can see that the bit is really small, and I'm able to get a nice kind of flush filing on top of the nail, especially if I'm that close to the natural nail. So carbides like this are really nice. You can also use something like a sanding band if you want to use a sanding band. You can also use that typhoon bit that I used last week if you want to. And this whole video, I want you guys to ignore this ugly, ugly, ugly nail. I have been saving this nail for you guys. It has lifting, it has staining, it has dry skin. So you guys are going to see these ugly nails in action next week. But anyway, don't judge me. I'm saving you my ugliest nails to be able to use them to teach you guys here on YouTube. But this week I'm going to show you guys how to just use this carbide cone to remove the natural shine, remove any little lifted areas. We're going to talk about reshaping this nail and how we can swap it to something else. You can soak off your overlay, but again, the whole point of doing an overlay is if we like doing our nails regularly, we want to keep our natural nail from getting worn out. So even though this nail has grown out for the last 4 weeks, I want to keep the integrity of the nail that's under this gel. And this is a good thing to talk about because as you can see, even a month later, I only have this much new growth on my nail. So if I constantly, every single 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if I remove this gel every time, I will have touched this area of my nail probably 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 times by the time it finally grows out. So that's what we want to avoid, is we want to avoid overworking our natural nail. And by just leaving this gel on there and backfilling this area, I'm going to save the integrity of my natural nail underneath, and I get to wear nails, with different colors regularly without causing any damage, or at least minimizing the amount of damage that we're going to cause. Okay, so I'm going to start with my e-file. Since I'm doing a very, very thin nail, I'm gonna touch it down just a tad. I'm gonna put my e-file at maybe like 80% speed, 85%. I'm also using this carbide cone that is not very gritty. It doesn't have huge flutes on it or huge teeth on it. So I'm gonna be able to remove just the natural shine and kind of remove any lifted areas. I never file like this, and I've shown you guys this a lot. When I e-file, I don't put the point of the bit on my nail ever. I pretend like it's a nail file, and I use it in a parallel motion to file the surface. I want to kind of keep it parallel to the direction of which I want the nail to curve. So you'll see me kind of tip it up so it's perfectly parallel in this area. As I come through the main body of the nail plate, I kind of tip it this way. And I also tip the finger as well. And then you'll see towards the tip, I'm going to kind of angle it backward a little bit so that it's nice and flush with that free edge of the nail, okay? So I'm going to file just from the side again. I like showing you guys from the side before I get into it because you can kind of see the angle of my bit. And you'll notice I file just before, I'm going to try and get my camera to stop freaking out on me. I file just before the edge. Can you guys see that, like, right there is natural nail, and then here you can see that artificial pink color start. So I file just before that area because I don't want to file on my natural nail. From the top, it looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to file like this from right to left. If you're a lefty, you're going to file from left to right in reverse. And I'm just going to kind of remove the shine because I need to do that anyway. If you want to thin out the product, you can. Like if you built up an apex through here and you want to thin that out, you can. But this product is pretty much flush with how my natural nail grows. So I'm not going to do that too much. Now I'm going to turn my finger to the side because I want to come up and I want to get rid of any product that might be lifting. Now I'm going to get in real tight here so I can show you guys something. Can you see right there? And I showed you guys this last week, but can you see how there's like a little white line around the perimeter? That's basically gel that has started to lift. I don't see any other lifting on this nail. The free edge isn't lifted. I do have like one little chip missing down here. You can see there's like product missing right there. But when you're filing, start looking at the nails closely and look for color, like discoloration. Look for areas where, see like right here, this little spot right here, that's where I thinned out the pink. So now I've got this little shadow, and that's basically showing me that I thinned out the pink and now I can see my natural nail peeking through. But pay attention to discoloration, to varied colors, because it's going to show you, you know, where there's lifting, where there's not lifting, even if you're using a pink gel. Now I'm going to come up this side, and again, when I file, even like this, I'm not digging into the side of my finger. I'm just keeping it nice and flush to the sidewall. I'm going to file just before that line that I want to remove. Now, if I get to a part where there's a little bit of lifting, like this little white spot right here, again, don't file on it, file just before it. The reason why we don't file on it is two reasons. If we file on it, it's going to yank on it. The bit is going to pull upward on it, which could lead to more lifting. And that's why usually you feel like you constantly are filing, and you keep getting more and more lifting. It's because you're yanking on that gel and you're pulling it upwards. And this applies to gel, acrylic, anything. When you have lifting, file just before it. The other reason why we file just before the lifted area is because we don't want to actually file through that lifted area and touch our natural nail. So if you put your bit just before it and you just keep filing until it's flush, you're going to see little chips of it come off. Can you guys see how it's like starting to pop right off? So what we're doing is we're actually lowering the rest of the product down to a point where that lifted area breaks off. And I'm doing this extremely slowly so you guys can see this. All right, right there. Can you guys see that that popped? So if I flick that off, now you can see that that lifted area popped right off. I don't have any redness or ring of fire because I'm filing only on product, not on my natural nail. And then I can go through and proceed to remove the rest of it. Now I'm going to go through and thin out this little apex area right here, because I feel like that's a little heightened. I want to leave some of the thickness because I don't want to thin it out too much. And then I just go through the other side, down this side, and you can see right there on the side I've got one more little bit of lifting. Again, right before it. I'm going to file just before it. You can see that pink gel just before that white turning slightly translucent. That shows me that I'm filing right in the right spot. And you can kind of do little tickling motions if you want to, or you can do nice long drags. It's totally up to you. I like to show this really slowly so that people get an understanding of what the heck I'm doing. Because when you see people e-file, a lot of the time it's done so quickly that you can't really get the gist of what they're doing. Now, I also don't grab nippers or a cuticle push or anything and trying to shove that off because, again, you're going to yank on the gel and it's going to pull on it and cause even more lifting, or you might cause damage to the natural nail. So just flick a little bit like that. You can see I've still got a little bit of pink gel there, and then now that little lifted spot is gone. All right? So again, watch from the side, watch your thickness like that, check all the sides. But basically what I'm doing is just removing essentially that first layer of top coat. You can see one little tiny shiny spot there, but that's okay because I'm going to do cuticle work. And this is what we want to do for just removing that gel, okay? Now, with your carbide cone, you can clean underneath the nail at this point, but I'm going to wait until the end because I want to show you guys why I wait. If you guys notice, my natural nail curves downward a little bit. And if I show you another one that I already did, see how this nail goes up a little bit? It just looks nice and clean. This natural nail, it kind of is curving downward. So I'm going to show you how to build up a little bit more product and file away the underside of your nail so that this looks nice and clean. Here's my other middle finger so you can see before and after. This was what basically it looked like before, where it's got that hump of product that's grown out. It's still nice and flush, The way you get it flush is you use that wetting layer that I've always talked about on here, but it's got a little bit of lifting on the sides. It's got a hump of product here that we want to remove. And then this is what it should look like after you're done e-filing. You're not removing all the product, but you're getting rid of basically that line where it's grown out. You're blending it, getting rid of any lifting, and looking for discoloration also in the center, looking for anything that might be dark underneath. That's why I usually recommend doing clear overlays under a color, but you can absolutely do builder pink gels, beige gels, whatever you want. You can absolutely do that. I just like to tell people, hey, make sure you're checking the color of your nail bed, because that'll tell you if there's anything going on underneath, like pseudomonas, which a lot of people refer to as greenies, okay? I'm going to turn off my e-file for a second because I want to point something out. Let me just dust off my finger here. Okay, so as you can see, I removed those little bits of lifting, okay? So no lifting here. I still need to do all my cuticle prep, and I still need to prep this natural nail back here. But a lot of people get hung up when they see, and this is zoomed in a lot, so it's going to look even more drastic than it really does in real life. But a lot of people get hung up when they see just a teeny white line around the edge of their nail. Don't worry about that, okay? If you can constantly try and file, you're going to be filing forever. And sometimes the gel on the edges, it is kind of pulled and worn out. And so you don't want to be constantly filing on that, because that's usually when you end up causing a ring of fire. You spend way too much time on one area, which is not efficient for a service. And you don't need to worry about that. It's going to get cleaned up when we do the rest of our application. When we do our cuticle work, we're going to clean it. And this is not lifting that is going to progress. I mean, this is just a teeny little white line, probably mostly dust and debris that is right there on the edge. And I just wanted to point that out because you don't want to get hung up on that. I've got dry skin here on the inside, which I'm going to take care of in a second. And you can also see I've got my nice regrowth there that is perfectly shiny. I want to remove that natural shine. And you can also see a little bit of a white line here. Can you see that right there? Let me get something to point with so I'm not blocking. Can you see this like little white line right here? That's actually just a little bit of dried cuticle that's on the nail. Let me see if I can get, oh, sorry, out of focus. Right here is just dried cuticle, and you can push back the cuticles at this point before you do your cuticle bits. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'll push it back just so you can see what I mean. Okay, so this will turn white and you'll see exactly what I mean by the dried cuticle. Now, when I first started doing nails, I was erroneously taught that this was called pterygium. This is not pterygium. Pterygium is when your eponychium skin actually grows out and is somehow like growing into your nail plate. So you'll see people where they have pterygium and it's like their skin goes into a split, and so their cuticle area kind of looks like this. It like goes in. Google pterygium, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, my apologies if you ever watched any of my videos or ever heard me use that word early on when I first started doing nails. I was not using the correct term. And so I like to point that out now just to make sure that we're all talking the same language. And I did do a previous video on cuticles with some close-ups on nail anatomy if you guys want to go back and watch my gel nail fundamentals from the beginning. Okay, so this part that's turning white is basically the dried material, the dead material that attaches to the nail plate. It's called cuticle. And then back here is our eponychium. And then you can see I've got like a little white line of tissue. And that's usually the part that I do trim or I exfoliate off with bits. There are lots of different ways to go about nail care. If you're one of those people that believes that even pushing back is aggressive, more power to you. But I do like to remove that little teeny white line. And there are lots of people that argue that's living tissue. But to me, anything that's white means it no longer has a direct blood supply to it. It's all dried, just like this stuff over here is dried skin. And so I do like to take that off. Okay, so I pushed back my cuticle, my eponychium area, just so I can see what the full extent of my nail plate is going to look like. And that's a good thing to do is, if you can on someone, gently push back their cuticle like this, nice and even. Don't do any sliding motions like this. It's really uncomfortable to do that. I don't know who started the whole sliding thing where they swoop and slide. To me, that feels like someone's gonna slice my finger off. So I like to just gently push back, nice and even, not too crazy, just to try and expose the maximum amount of nail plate. And that way I can kind of see, where is the nail plate willing to go? Like, where is my skin willing to push back to? All right, I am going to use my cuticle and skin bit. I really, really like this bit. And it's nice and long and skinny and helps me clean up all that dead stuff on my nail plate. I'm going to use it at about maybe between 5,000 and 7,000 RPMs on my machine. For most of you, that's going to be about a quarter of the way up. I'm in forward, and I just start in the center of the nail, and I'm just going to gently, as if I were using a buffer or something, I am going to take off the natural shine and that dead cuticle that was on the nail plate. And you can even go down and just go right across that grown out area that's right in front of the gel. Can you see that? Okay. Nice and gentle like that. And you can see it even took off this side of that white line. I like bits like this because they're super gentle. Like you can see, like it does absolutely nothing. And it feels kind of like a cuticle massage, but I really like this bit. It's very user friendly. It's very beginner friendly. It's also, you know, pointy and skinny enough for advanced nail technicians to use. And when I do this, I am doing it very parallel to the nail plate. Again, not digging into the cuticle. What I want to do is I want to just file along. I'm just going to do one more pass so you guys can see what that looks like. I'm just going to file along so that I can get that shine off the natural nail without digging into my natural nail. And then when I come down the sidewall, what I do is I lay the whole bit down in there, and I just kind of come down the sidewall, and this is going to help blend any little wicks or hangnails or whatever you call them down the sides. It helps blend those all out. And you can even do like this, where you pull your skin back and come down, and then use that whole belly of the bit to do that. And you can flick outward and get that dried skin from the corners off, okay? You can even come this way and take that off, but I like to get those hardened corners, flick them outward so you can see them, and then I can even take those off with a ball bit in the next step. All right, so let me dust off my fingers so you can see what this looks like. All right, so can you see that cleaned that up really nicely? I don't have any more like dead debris on the nail. There is going to be dust on the sides. Again, there's no debris on the actual nail plate. If you look at it from the top, you're going to see dust in the sidewalls. Don't freak out about that. Don't go digging in China with, you know, trying to get all of this stuff out of there, okay? Just focus on removing the natural shine, removing any dead material. And you can even see that I've got nice cuticle skin back there too. I haven't cut anything. I haven't overdone it. You can see on this side it looks nice and clean. On this side, I still have a little bit that I can clean up. So I'm going to turn my machine off. I'm going to put it in reverse now. And now I'm going to do this side of my nail. And you guys have probably seen me do this multiple times on my channel. So again, parallel to the nail plate. This part takes a little bit of practice to go backwards because we're not used to going against our hand. But you can see how nicely that just cleans everything up. Come down the sidewall and flick outward. Right on that corner, just flick outward like that. Okay? So can you see how it starts to just get like everything away from the nail plate? Like that. Nail plate's nice and clean on both sides now. And it also will, this little diamond bit will help you blend any of those little white spots that are bugging you. Okay? Like that. Now, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to grab my ball bit. You can use the skin smoothing bit if you want one that's a little bit easier to use if you're new to this. Watch my previous video that I did on an overlay, and you can see how I do that. Okay, now with the ball bit, I like to come up against, I'm going to do my corner that I just took off, get rid of that. See, oh, sorry. Right here, I just go right on that little white spot, and it just smooths all that skin off of there. Come up in front, without touching your nail plate, come right up in front of that white line. Put a little bit of pressure on the skin as you do this, just a little bit. Because what we want to do is we want to control the bit, get it right on the spot that we're trying to remove. Come across like that. And the trick is you want to get in front of that white line. Don't push downward. You want to get right in front without touching your nail plate. This is very tricky to do, but with some practice and paying attention, you can absolutely do it. So you basically just put the bit right on the skin, and I kind of push upwards as I do that so that I get right in front of it. Put a little bit of pressure as you do this, just a little bit, kind of helps push the skin and remove it. And then same thing on this side, I'm going to do that corner, and voila, you have a very nice cuticle area, okay? You can do a little bit more on the inside if you want. Like so. Okay? Now I've got a perfectly clean nail ready for application. At this point, you can take a wipe with cleanser and clean your nail. You can also use a manicure scrub brush. This one looks really dusty on camera, but it's mine, so who cares? Oh, and I've got like a little fuzz in there. Oh well. I like these manicure brushes because you can stick them in disinfectant. So if you're working on clients, you can reuse them. Use one per client while they're clean, and then wash them at the end of the day and disinfect them in your disinfectant solution. Once they get kind of really like worn out and grody, then I get new ones. But these are a really nice option if you want something reusable. And all I do is, with my cleanser pump, I just take like this, I just put it on top and pump cleanser onto the actual bristles of it, and then I scrub my nail. And I scrub it, you know, really well on the sidewalls, underneath, everything. This is also a nice option for gel because it doesn't have any fuzz. And I do also like wipes, especially if you really, really, really want to squeaky clean the nail. But usually I use a little scrub brush, and then I'm able to get all that dust and debris out of the sidewalls. All right, so let me zoom in again so you guys can see the aftermath of this. All right, so as that dries, make sure you allow your nail to completely dry. All right, and you'll see my nail turn nice and chalky as that alcohol dries, and I've got a little bit of acetone in my gel cleanser. And so now you're gonna see a really nice, clean nail with no debris that is ready for reapplication. All right, now I am going to use, what am I gonna use today? I'm gonna show you guys something different today that I haven't shown you before. I'm going to use this new, let me get my fingerprints off of it. That's not cute. All right, there we go, nice and shiny. I'm gonna show you guys the Cocoist Bonding Duo in a bottle. I really like this stuff. It is what most people would refer to as rubber base. It's basically a base coat and builder all in one, and it comes in a bottle. It is clear, and so I can apply this right on here and backfill. I'm not going to use pink today. I'm just going to use clear just to be able to show you. Okay, so let me turn my finger so I can do this properly. All right, first, but you know, before we get into the actual rebuilding of our overlay, and you'll notice I haven't even done anything with the shape or anything. You can, if you want to, if that bugs you, you can do all the shaping before, but what I find is I'm gonna have to finish file the overlay usually anyways, and so I usually leave the finish filing or the shaping towards the end unless I'm shortening a lot. But on this, like, all I'm gonna do is basically make it a little bit more oval like this guy. I'm gonna take off some of these corners, and I'm gonna file underneath the nail as well. So I usually wait to do that because I try to do as many steps in one pass as possible. That way my appointment goes faster. If you want to do your shaping first, you can do that at any point before you do your application. And just make sure that you've got everything dust-free and clean before you start putting gel on. All right, now, because this is a base and builder in one, I want my first layer to be applied like I showed you guys how to apply base coat way back when. So if you remember, I did a small amount on my brush, a very small amount, and I scrub it into my nail plate. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing with this. So I'm gonna shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. I'm gonna kind of use this as my wetting layer, but I'm also gonna work it into the nail plate as I go. You can even turn the brush sideways if you want to. If that's easier for you to get down in your sidewalls, you can do that. You can swoop. Some people like to come up one side and down the other. You can do that as well. There's like really no right or wrong way to do this. And I'm gonna turn this so you can see, okay? So over here, really shimmy everything and get it into those little nooks and crannies. Gel is not like nail polish. We want to actually work it into the nail, make sure that it's well adhered. And it's really about placing the product more than it is polishing. You really have to kind of readjust your mindset when you're working with gel. Instead of thinking of like polishing a nail, think about placing product. Think about kind of like you're icing a cake. In some places you need to put more icing, and some places you need to, you know, push a little bit so that it adheres. And in some places you need to be lighter so that it flows over the top without making crumbles. It's very similar to that. Okay, so there is my base layer. At this point you can also do a little bit on the edge underneath if you want to, but we're gonna file that out, and I'll show you at the end why I'm not worried about the free edge of my natural nail, because I'm gonna fix that in a second, okay? So now I've got that base layer done. You can cure this if you want to. I'm just gonna flash cure it. It is clear gel, so it's gonna cure all the way through, even if I put more on top. I'm just gonna cure it for maybe like 7 to 10 seconds. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep it from moving, but it's not going to be fully cured, and that way I'm not wasting time waiting for the full cure for that layer. It's clear gel. The UV light's going to be able to penetrate through the next layer of clear gel that I put on, so I don't have to worry about that. I can flash cure and move on with my appointment. But flash curing is a good technique, especially if you're in a warm room. I'm in a very warm room right now. It's summertime. My studio's hot with all these lights, and I can't run my AC without it making noise on my camera, so I like to flash cure as I go because then it keeps everything under control, okay? So now what you're going to do is do your quick wet layer just to get some gel on the nail. Even though we do have that inhibition layer, I find that doing a wet layer always makes things much easier. Okay, so I've got my wet layer. Now I'm going to take my bead on my brush, and even just with the brush from the bottle, I'm just going to touch down as if I were doing it with a brush in a pot, and I'm going to walk it down the nail. Okay, and as soon as I'm happy with my application, I'm going to go ahead and cure. Okay, so you guys can see that now I've got this nice shape. Obviously I backfilled with clear, so you're going to be able to see that, but I wanted you to be able to see it because I wanted you to be able to see how any of that little white line that you thought was there is now gone, right? And you can also see how much easier it is to see the nail plate through clear gel than it is through pink. So again, even if you like pink builder gel, I still recommend doing a thin clear layer underneath that, because I think that being able to see the natural nail plate at every visit is very important. If it's a translucent pink like this, then you're usually in the clear because you'd be able to see any discoloration through the pink. And like I showed you that discoloration when you see lifting and stuff, but clear is just such an easy color to be able to put anything on top of. When you file down to it, you can see the nail plate. It's just, to me, it's like a window to the nail plate underneath anything that I put on top. So I really like backfilling or filling or even extending and doing overlays with clear gels. I much prefer clear, but I know a lot of you guys do like pinks. And there also are some awesome builder gels, you know, that are out there that have built-in color. So for people that like natural nail color, they can do all their, you know, application in one step, okay? But you can see I added a nice little apex to my nail, and I kind of adjusted it. And if I want to, I can even add more product out here and file underneath upwards to be able to adjust that. Okay, so let me show you how you would adjust that a little bit more. And we can finish file this, so we don't need to worry about making it too thick. So again, I'm just going to do one quick wet layer, very thin, because I don't want to get my cuticle area too thick here. Okay, let's say I want to fix a nail that hooks down, okay? I'm actually going to add product out here because I want this to be the new level that my nail goes to. And let me just put this on and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Basically, we're just going to add product, and then I'll finish file this at the end to show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, here is that nail. I added extra product. You can see it's like extra thick out here towards the free edge. But if you reimagine that this nail we're going to file away and lift it up, if we wanted to do that, you're able to add product in an area. And this is how you can adjust those hooked nails, or if your nails grow downward, or maybe you did an extension wrong and it's down too far. You can absolutely add product even on top of an area and then file underneath to bring that up. So let's take a look at how this turns out. So obviously I have a ton of gel on my finger right now. It's too thick for me to even put color on top of it at this point, because if I were to go put 2 coats of color in top coat, this thing's going to be real thick. So I'm going to finish file this nail, And let's take a look at how we do that. So I'm going to take that carbide cone that I used in the beginning, and I just want to show you how we can lift that hooked nail. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to remove the natural nail, and this nail's pretty short to do this with, so you're not going to get as much of an effect as you would if this was longer, but I wanted to show you how we can do that. So if you take your bit, and very carefully without touching the tip of your finger too much, this thing isn't sharp, but it doesn't really feel nice if you really jab yourself with it. I'm going to go underneath and file out kind of at a 45-degree angle. And you'll see kind of that clear gel, that little gray line is the clear gel underneath there. You can start to kind of lift up the tip of the nail. Can you see how I can like file underneath, and so that curved part starts to go upward? So you can absolutely do that, and then I'm going to go through the nail as well and finish file. So again, if you want to file it by the cuticle area, you're going to make it parallel to the cuticle area. As you go through the belly of the nail, you're going to flatten your bit out, and then as you go towards the tip of the nail, you're going to do that towards the tip and flatten that. And see how I'm kind of making the nail that was previously hooking downward is now coming more straight out? So you can absolutely manipulate the way that a nail looks by adding product where you need it, removing product where you need it. Okay, and I just want to show you like from the side. See how that looks much straighter? It doesn't look like it's hooking down anymore. Now I can come up the sides. Go gently around the cuticle area. Down this side wall. Okay, and just make that a really nice shape. Now I'm also going to look down the barrel, make sure that I don't have any thickness in one particular area. I've got one little nubbin right over here, but that looks pretty dang good. Okay, so just with your E-file you can do a lot, alright? And then from the side you can see that that nail now comes much straighter out. It's not hooking downward as much, so you remove that bird beak. And the longer the nail, the more you're going to see this. You can add a substantial amount of product. I mean, I've seen people where they actually put like this much product on top of the nail and then file everything back upward, and it really does help to reshape that nail and give it a nice curve. Okay, so there's that. Now you can see that I need to still finish file the free edge, and this is why I usually wait till I'm done with my application, because I still have to file the shape anyway. And even after application you need to file it again, so that's why I don't waste time doing it when you know, right before my gel. I'm also going to undercut when I file. I am going to do it about a 45-degree angle, keeping in mind not putting any notches here on the side, but this is just my natural nail. So I'm just going to round this out into kind of a little bit more of an oval shape. Coming down the sides, a little bit at a time. And you can see I can round this out like so. Okay, so that looks a little bit nicer. And then once I'm done, then I look at the sides and kind of make sure that that's all blended with my real nail. Real sidewall blends into the edge. Same thing on this side. Put your nail file underneath, watch where you're filing, and see how I can just blend that out. Always turn and look at what you're filing. Don't just file from the top. I really want you guys to get down and dirty with your nails, look at them up close, and focus on what you're doing. You know, file, like they say, file with purpose. So true. Like, if you just blindly do stuff, you don't know where you're going. Okay? So there, I've got a nice shape. And see how I've got that nice nail that kind of just comes, the edge of it comes straight out from my fingertip. It's not down anymore. And then I've got that nice kind of credit card thickness. I'm going to file underneath here just at like a 45. This is going to blend out my natural nail underneath this overlay. And because I did that carbide underneath here as well, you're gonna see, I talked about this in my Q&A video, so if you didn't watch that, you can go back and see. But see how my natural nail is no longer at the edge? See how you can see that pink gel before you can see my natural nail? And here with color, you'll be able to see it as well. See how there's like, my natural nail is that milky white, and then there's like a dark perimeter around it? That's because I filed out my natural nail. So when I talk about overlays lasting, you really want to get rid of your natural nail around the edge of the gel, because you don't want that natural nail to be exposed over a 2, 3, 4 week process. It's really going to make sure that your nail stays on, your gel stays intact the whole entire time. And then all I do at the very end is I dust everything off, and now I can go in and start applying my color. Okay? So that is how you backfill that. I'm going to put color on this, and then I'll show you guys the final result. All right, guys, there you have it. Final nail with the overlay. And we also were able to adjust the angle at which our natural nail goes. Now that I have color on it, you guys are going to be able to see what I was talking about, where that little perimeter you see is actually the pink gel, but I no longer have that milky whiteness from my natural nail. So filing out that natural nail underneath the overlay is really going to help keep these nails on, especially on dominant fingers like thumbs and pointers. But you can see that I'm able to do a nice overlay that's going to last for many weeks and just a really pretty sparkly color. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to show you how to do this ugly nail next. It's got everything needed for an awesome YouTube video, and I will see you guys again next time. All right, bye.